Integrating Autistic Children into Mainstream Schools by Jacqueline Solomon. In the Leader Messenger on the 28th of August 2009, it is reported that a mother's desperate attempt to keep her 8-year-old autistic son in an education system has led her to launch the Autism Spectrum Disorder School South Australia campaign. The mother is reported saying, "We've been through heaps of schools. At one school he was sent home every day, at the least after 10 minutes and at the most an hour." Further stating, a lot of teaching staff do not understand the chaos an autistic child is trying to deal with and label their different behaviour as naughty. Historically, society misunderstood autism, believing it was a mental health problem, and the said person should be institutionalised. These misinformed ideas are being challenged by the counter-hegemonic voice, stating difference is not a deficit, it is just different. According to Freire, culture and nature are binary opposites. Anything cultural can be remade, anything natural, you're almost fighting the whole world scheme. Those who are dominant, the hegemonic in society, have intentionally and unintentionally created structures which make the different, counter-hegemonic, feel like they are fighting the whole world scheme. Piaget explains the human intelligence can be identified as forming through structuralism and constructivism. Structuralism often occurs without the individual being aware of it taking place. The intelligence becomes aware of the knowledge once the action has occurred, unless the individual is recalling structures which have been purposely learned. Constructivism requires an education of the nervous system for the physical world to be aware of its presence. As individuals age, the intelligence is caused to construct operational structures. Therefore, it is imperative for the voice of the counter-hegemonic group to reconstruct the structures of the hegemony, giving them understanding and empathy. Over the last few decades, parents of autistic children, some educators and professionals in the field of autism, have joined together to restructure the misconceptions. As a result, a group called ASPECT, Autism Spectrum Australia, formed. Their main goal is to mainstream autistic children successfully. This presentation will argue an educator can be proactive about difference within the school community, creating empathy for autistic students and their families. The educator will gain direction for successful integration and supporting the counter-hegemonic autistic student by creating a cultural map. A cultural map is a useful tool for identifying and naming difference, then gathering, collaborating, and utilising resources available. Difference can be so smothered by dominance it's hard to see. Therefore, at the beginning of the school year on the Pupil Free Day, a workshop called Discovering Disability and Diversity would be presented for all staff to attend. The workshop gives participants first-hand experience of disability, for example, by wearing a set of pre-programmed headphones containing different sounds and instructions, played all at once. The participant can experience the noise and chaos an autistic child deals with moment by moment. Also, during the Pupil Free Day, the principal organises for staff meet according to the grade they are teaching. It is during this time I would explain how I would integrate a Grade 1 autistic child into the mainstream Grade 1 class. To commence the day, Session 1, the students would sit together on the floor for a morning circle. During this time, I would greet the students, have a show and tell time and review the daily timetable. I would read an age-appropriate story about disability. Each day there would be a different relevant story. We would then reflect on the story in order to stimulate thinking about how to relate, include and treat people with a disability. The class would move outside to engage in gross motor activities, such as ball games or an obstacle course, while wearing different apparatus that would inhibit participation, for example an armband, earmuffs or no talking. The class would regroup and discuss how the activity felt. I would point out that even though it was hard or frustrating to participate, it was good to be involved, and how they still wanted to be included and accepted despite the limitations. During the second session, curriculum would be focused on fine motor activities. The student would sit at their desk and do a colouring in picture or a dot-to-dot activity of a child with a disability which is relevant to the morning story. The students would be encouraged to try drawing or writing with a less preferred hand. We would then discuss how that feels. The autistic student would be expected to make an attempt to join in. However, activity stations would be set up for the autistic child to meet their needs. Knowing and meeting the individual needs of each student is imperative. Sensory activities or art activities would be the next item on the timetable. During this time, the students would be encouraged to experience the various mediums of the senses and the art that they are participating in, while having opportunity to think about how difference is expressed, because there are different times when a person doesn't appear to have disability. However, they behave differently. I would encourage students to ask questions relevant to the topic. Third session. On the first afternoon of each week, a music therapist would be employed to create a variety of mediums of exploring difference through music. Again, students would occasionally wear or sit on apparatus limiting their abilities while engaging in music therapy. The rest of the week would support what the music therapist has taught. For example, relaxation music with bubbles, feathers and streamers, musical games or dances, like musical chairs, hokey pokey, the Wiggles and so on. Or they could play a musical instrument along to a favourite CD. While students are observing each other, they will notice difference. Music will be an opportunity to teach children how to apply kindness, respect and acceptance. The students would then repack their bags and regroup on the floor. They would review the main lesson of the day, how to treat, relate and respect a person with a disability. Throughout the term, disability awareness would be the main theme of the class curriculum, with relevant changes to each session. For example, during gross motor activities, students would experience being strapped into a wheelchair, wearing a leg band or wearing shaded goggles to create visual impairment, and so on. Fine motor activities would be broadened as students improved their writing skills. Time would be given also for a reading program with the occasional book relating to disability. A variety of sensory and art activities would be offered. During the third session, music activities would continue. The music therapist and myself will work closely together to support and give variety to the theme. Relevant outings and art council productions would be included to further enhance the students' learning experience about difference. Positive reinforcement strategies would be applied throughout the day. Any student who has behavioural issues will be given an individual behaviour management plan. The student will have achievable goals on the plan, which they have been involved in choosing. That is, what it is they're working for. Gradually, the dominant students would understand that difference is not something to be afraid of, it is just different,